poker player approached me a few days ago and he said, Adam, I'm failing. I can't get my grinding done. I've got no motivation to study. I can't stick to my routines. And I'm feeling like a loser, like I'm failing at life. What do I do? Now, this isn't the first player who's approached me feeling like they need to do more and that they're failing and moving backwards. And this problem very often gets approached the complete wrong way, and most players feel stuck, trapped, and they can't get themselves going and create momentum. If that feels like you, or if you feel like you go through phases where you can't execute on what you want to, in this video, hopefully I'll be able to share the frameworks that allow you to move forward. It's really important that you approach the problem from the right lens. So this player assumed that I was going to give him some sort of motivational speech. He thought he was lacking discipline, lacking motivation, and he just needed some tough love. Get going. Come on, what are you wasting time for? Let's get moving again. And I actually did the opposite. You know, as you go through this video, you'll understand why I did the opposite of what he thought I was going to do. So rather than tell him what to do, rather than trying to get him to be more disciplined and more focused on what he's doing, I initially went, so what? Who cares? And at first he's like, all right, Adam, some coach you are, you're meant to be helping me. I've come for advice, and you just asked, you saying, so what? But what I was getting at is basically I wanted him to tell me, why does it matter that he's failing? So he started to stop saying that, well, it matters to me. So he started trying to defend his position. It matters to him because he isn't achieving his goals, which were to play higher stakes. He's not feeling comfortable in himself when he goes to bed. He feels like a loser that he hasn't executed. And he knows he's capable of doing more, because in the past he was doing a lot more, and now he feels like he's stagnating and not making progress. So I started to get very specific with him. And I was trying to pin him down to, well, what are you trying to achieve right now? You talk to me, what is the goal that you're trying to achieve? And this is when it went very fluffy. It almost went, well, I want to be playing higher stakes, but at the moment, I haven't really got any avenue to do that, because in the country I live in, there's restrictions on the levels I can play, and the games I have to play are super easy. So there's no competition, and I don't feel like studying because there's no real drive to get better. So straight away, we've got no goal, all right? This is really important. We've got no goal and no clarity of what he's aiming for. Or we've got something fluffy, like it's like, oh, I want to get more money, or I want to play higher stakes. There's nothing concrete, all right? So from the mind's perspective, it's instantly going, well, why try? What are we actually working towards? All right, I also asked him, like, why did it matter? What's the kind of stakes on the line? And he said, like, well, I don't feel good going to bed, and I know I can do more. All right, so again, didn't really have a clear answer of what he's trying to achieve and why it matters. All right, so if you're in the situation, the first thing you've got to do if you're struggling to get yourself to do more is to take a step back and go through these 3 phases. Phase 1 is get clarity. Get clarity on 2 things. First, what you want, right? What is the goal you're trying to achieve? Very specific, not to play high stakes, not to make money. What do you want to do? What win rate do you want at what level? What exact thing do you want to achieve? And then more importantly, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Why does it matter if you fail? You've really got to understand we only drive towards stuff and take action towards stuff if the stakes on the line, if it matters, all right? So you need to understand what drives you to take action. For some high stakes players, they want to prove to other people that they can win. They want to prove to themselves that they're good enough, or they just want to achieve success and be the best at what they do. Whatever the motivational driver, the why behind it, it doesn't really matter as long as it makes you feel that urgency. I need to do this, all right? So you've got to find this why. You've got to create stakes. You've got to create some emotional intensity about why this pursuit towards this goal you're on matters. Now, I heard a great quote, which I think is super true, that failures and winners have the same goals. Unsuccessful people and successful people have the same goals. Which got me thinking, wow, is that true? And when you think about it, it is. Everyone wants to be rich, only winners and successful people are. Everyone wants to be healthy, everyone wants great relationships, everyone wants to be happy. So what's the difference? The difference is the successful people have a real burning why this needs to happen. Not I want it to happen, it needs to happen. The why, the emotion behind their actions is 10x someone who doesn't succeed. All right, so you've got to really get clear why it matters. Why do I need to do this? And for a lot of players who I work with, they've already had success in the past. I work with a lot of mid-stakes players, high-stakes players, and they've got themselves to take action before, but now they've stagnated. And very often, the why has got cloudy or it's vanished out of sight, and the what has changed. they've achieved some goals, and now they get another what that drives them. So for this player, spending time on what you want and why it matters is the starting point. You have to start here. Now imagine, to show this in real kind of example, imagine for the next month, I told you to grind as much as possible and study as much as possible and become as good at poker as you could be. And I mapped out a whole routine for you to follow. And I give you it, and it's 10 hours of poker every day. All right? And I said to you, in one example, if you can get the best results possible, I will give you $1 million. All right? If you get a win rate of above X amount of big bigs per 100, I will give you $1 million. And I give you that routine to follow. How motivated are you? How hard is it for you to wake up early? How hard is it for you to grind hard and study? Not hard, right? I'd follow you for a month and I'd be like, he got everything done, right? He just executed. You'd probably skip sleep, you'd probably skip meals, you'd skip meeting friends, you'd skip everything but working towards your goal. Why? Because it matters. Because the stakes are high. Now imagine the same example. I said the same thing. Try and get as good at poker, study, grind as much as possible, give you a framework to follow to do that. But this time, it's just play money. You're just playing for play money. I'll check in at the end of the month to see how you've done, and good luck. After a few days that I followed you, I can see you've drifted. At the end of the month, it's like, oh, something else happened. There was something more important. You got distracted by life, and it took over. What's the difference? One had real stakes, and one didn't. One mattered, one didn't. And we forget sometimes with ourselves, we think that we're going to be motivated to move towards stuff, but we need clarity of what it is and why we should care. Why should I move towards it? This player who was speaking to me, instantly, it was unclear. The goal of playing high stakes was in the background, but right now, his current challenge, games are easy, nothing to focus on. All right, so getting clear on what you're working towards and why it matters. So to summarize the first phase, don't focus on discipline, focus on direction, where you're going and why it matters. All right, once you've done that, you can then go to phase 2. And phase 2 is where the magic happens. This is the most important phase. This is where I spend most of my work coaching players to get to the next level. And this is upgrading your identity. It's asking yourself the very powerful question, who do I need to become? All right, so you've got the goal of where you're trying to get to and why it matters, and you realize you're here. There's a gap, a big gap between where you are and where you need to be. All right, that's normal. Now, most people spend a lot of time focused on their inadequacies. I can't achieve that goal because I've never been able to do these things before. They focus on their current character traits, on who they currently are. I say, forget all that. I don't care if you've never had success in anything you've ever done. I don't care what your track record is in the past. All I care is, from this moment, who do you need to become to make that a reality? So you start to create this vision of yourself. Who do I need to step into? What version of myself do I need to step into in order to make that reality? So most people see the gap in terms of, I need to do all these things, all right, to get there. But more importantly, you need to become a person who can do those things, all right? So imagine you're somebody who's very skinny and you want to put on muscle in the gym. You need to create an identity of somebody who has a muscular physique, someone who looks after themselves, who hits the gym regularly, who eats the right things. The what's going to come later, but who do you need to become? You need to instill character traits of discipline, of work ethic, of health as a value. All right, so you need to think who you need to be. All right, so cultivate the identity of the version of you that you need to start stepping into on a daily basis to make this a reality. And this is a long game. You're going to step into this over many months and even years to make that a reality. All right, so clarity on who you need to become, and you sculpted out the character traits, the identity, every single thing about who you need to be. All right, this is so powerful when you spend time thinking about that and asking yourself this question every day: who do I need to become? Every morning you wake up and go, who am I going to become today? Who am I being today? And you step into that over and over and you reinforce it, so that gap between who you are now and who you need to be gets smaller and smaller. You actually catch up that way. All right, you become the version of yourself. All right, this is so important. And the final step is execution. What do you need to be doing on a consistent basis to move you in the direction of the outcome you want? All right, so this player who was coming to me, he thought he was trying to do the execution first. If you do the execution last, it's actually super easy. You got this compelling, motivating reason to do something. You've got the identity that you're stepping into. The execution actually just becomes a byproduct of those two things. All right, so you focus on the key metrics, the key action steps, not results, that you need to execute on. All right, it's often for poker players, it's studying, high value studying, it's grinding hours, it's all your routines around the grind, so you're recovering and performing at a high level, and you execute on those over and over and over, repetition, towards this outcome and in alignment with your identity. Now, this is so powerful and it's so important that you get this in the right sequence, right? Because most people try to do these things, but they do them the wrong way around, all right? It's like making a cake or making a bacon. You've got to have the ingredients, the recipe, but you've got to follow the right order, the right sequence. So you have to, number one, get clarity on where you're going and why it matters, all right? It's no point trying to be disciplined if you don't know where you're trying to go or what's the reason behind it. The second thing is you need to focus not on what you need to do, but who you need to be, all right? Really focus on that. Who am I being? Where it's come from? And from there, you take the actions, all right? Clarity, the identity, and then the actions. And if you can do that order, it's just like really synchronicity. If you get all of those three in line, honestly, you don't struggle with discipline. You don't need more motivation. You do the things that are needed in order to move you towards your goals. And then all you need is patience, a long-term mindset, a kind of feedback loop where you're constantly tweaking things and getting better. And over time, you'll get there. You'll get to that outcome, and if you keep executing. So hopefully this gives you a new lens to look for. If you are struggling, if you're somebody who's trying to get themselves to do more, take some time to go through these phases. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to get clarity on what you want and why it matters. It takes even more time to become the version of yourself who can achieve your goals. But once you start thinking about those things and creating that framework, then the execution at the end becomes a lot easier. All right, still a challenge at times. You still have to overcome obstacles, but it becomes a lot easier. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button before you go. There'll be plenty more from me very soon.